Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at discussion boards and the steps that you can take to do your best in an online discussion board format. So the first step that you need to take is you need to take a look at the prompt. The prompt is the question or statement that tells you what to do for that discussion board. So what you need to do as a writer is to ask yourself, what is that prompt asking you to do? And typically, you're going to be asked to write in one of these styles you see listed here. You've got evaluate, persuade, summarize, compare, contrast, and analyze. So typically, you're going to be asked to do one of these things. So then that lets you know, okay, if you're asked to evaluate, that means that you need to assess and verify the information on this topic that you're discussing in the discussion board. If you're asked to persuade, then you're going to try to convince the reader to agree with you. If you're going to summarize, then you're going to compact that larger piece into a smaller piece. And if you're going to compare or contrast, you're going to point out the similarities or differences between two or more things. And finally, if you're going to analyze, you're going to break information into smaller parts. So for example, with that one, if you are asked to discuss a book, you're going to break that book into smaller parts, such as the characters, the setting, the plot, the tone, and so forth. So the first step that you need to do as a writer is you need to evaluate the prompt. Ask yourself, what is this prompt asking me to do? Once you know what to do, then you're going to respond to the prompt. And you've got a really easy process here that you can follow that has 5 steps called RACEs. And this is what you can do. So your first sentence is going to be a restatement of the question. Okay? The question is within the prompt. Second one is going to be to answer the question. And that may take you a couple of sentences to do that. Sometimes that's the case. So your second step is to answer the question. Your third is to cite the source. Usually, you're asked to go find an outside source and to cite that source. So that's letting your reader know, hey, this is where I got my information. And then you'll explain. So that explanation could be longer. It could be a couple of sentences. It could be a couple of paragraphs, depending upon the depth and breadth of information that you have available to you. And then finally, you're just going to summarize it. That summary can be as short as a sentence, or it can be longer. Again, depending upon the amount of information you have available. But your response to the prompt really should include all of these things. If you're doing all of these things, and you can use that acronym of RACEs to help you remember to do those, restate the question, answer the question, cite the source, explain, and summarize. You should have a pretty thorough response to that prompt. So after you've written your response to the prompt, what you're going to do is you're going to comment to the other posts. One of the things that's very important to understand about discussion posts is that you're not there just to show up, share information, and leave. That's not a discussion. When people discuss information, they're trading information back and forth. They're learning from each other. They're questioning each other. They are asking each other questions. They are offering additional information to each other. They're sharing resources and so forth. So what you need to do is to comment at least to 2 other discussions, 2 other people. And one of the things that tends to happen is that people will get jammed up on the first person or the first couple of people who have posted. And so those people will get a lot of people coming in and responding to them. And then people later down on that discussion list won't get as many responses. So what makes the most sense is to respond to the 2 discussions that come just before yours. That spreads out those comments so that the conversation can be more realistic. Because in a face-to-face situation, you would normally have a lot of small conversations happening as opposed to one person talking with 10 or 12 people. So here are some steps you can take to comment on those other posts. So first, number one here, address the person by name. So you can do that by saying, "Thank you, Sharon, for your post." Or, "Sharon, I see that you wrote about the Revolutionary War." Or, "I agree with you, Sharon." And then go to step 2 here, which is to ask a new question or offer additional information on the topic. Your purpose in commenting is to drive this conversation forward. So a response that says something like "good job" or "I like that" is completely useless. It does not drive the conversation forward. But if you ask a question or if you offer additional information, that will drive that conversation forward. That will allow you to engage with the other writer so that you can communicate with each other. And then finally, share a related resource or an anecdote and explain its value. So share information with the other writer so that you're offering them something in return. Okay, here's an example. Let's take a look at this. We have this prompt, identify one reason for the Afghanistan war. And then we have our response here. The Afghanistan war started under President Bush in 2001 following the September 11th attack. Bush called for the war to locate and eliminate terrorist threats to the United States. The Washington Post reported that the war started as a war against terror. Though the unpopular war lasted 2 decades, its end left little satisfaction for Americans. The Afghanistan war may have started as a war against terror, but in the end, its success is questionable. So you'll see here in that response, we've answered all of those steps from races. We've restated the question, we've answered the question, and so forth. We've cited a source, we explained, and then we summarized. All of those are included in that answer. And then here are a couple of sentence starters. These might be of value to you as you're looking at commenting to other writers in a discussion post. So these sentence starters are, Jennifer's comment made me reconsider. Okay, then you could fill in the blank there. What did the comment make you reconsider? Another one is, Dave, thank you for pointing that out. I found an article in the New York Times that states, so here you're addressing the person by name, you're thanking them for what they offered, and then you're also sharing a resource. Hey, I found this article, it's really good. It says this. That can be really helpful to the conversation. And then finally, this last example here, although Zane made a strong point that, fill in the blank, I now think, fill in the blank. So again, we're addressing the other writers by name, and we're offering valuable information that drives that conversation forward. A discussion board is useless if people aren't discussing, if people aren't communicating, if people aren't talking together. It's not a place to show up, throw in some information, and then run away. That's not what a discussion board is. A discussion board is a place for communication that goes back and forth. So that's what you want to do. So I hope that that information is helpful to you and hope that you are able to use this with your upcoming discussion boards. And good luck with your writing.